Well, global trade is a complex world. Understanding it is not always easy, yet it is very doable. My next guest is the author of The Global Entrepreneur, Taking Your Business International. I sat down with author James Foley to get some common sense tips. So, Jim, is it fair to say that the biggest impetus for someone to be interested in international markets and export sales is it simply that there's more of them than there are of us?
That's right. I mean, essentially, to not export is to ignore 95% of your potential customers. It'd be like walking into a room of 100 people to make a sales pitch and only talk to 5 of them. But it's actually not the only reason. There's a lot of other really substantial reasons why a company needs to export. Beyond more customers, it gives you diversification in your risk. So for example, in this latest recession, companies that were already engaged in international business have done better because they had a broader base of customers, and now that we see customers in Asia, for example, and now Brazil and even Argentina, they're pulling our exports from the U.S. at a faster rate than consumption's growing here in the U.S.
So a simple question, how does someone get there?
You know, the first thing is to make sure they want it, because management commitment, essentially a desire to go international, to just start selling to a place other than with the United States. That's the first thing that has to happen. And the reason is because it does take some time, it takes some persistence, and if the company has a setback and the management, if it's an entrepreneur or a mid-sized firm, and they say, what are we doing here, then that could derail it. So the first thing I look for is, does the company want this to happen? Then the next thing is, not to react to opportunities. For example, you might get an email from a market, say India, saying, I'd love to represent your company in India. You get excited, you think, wow, big market, this seems like a great opportunity. But instead, you should step back and say, what are the best markets to go into? Do some research, because if it's not the right market and you lose other opportunities, you're just spinning your wheels. So again, that you want to do it and that you do it proactively.
Say we're a manufacturer. Can we sell the same things here in the U.S. that we would sell abroad?
A lot of the stuff that we do produce here, both in products and services, by the way, because service exporting is actually growing faster than our product exporting. But back to products, there are some times when you have to make a modification. The best example would be government regulation, such as the CE mark in Europe. It's a safety mark. So just as a light bulb or a motor here in the US requires the UL mark, the same thing in Europe, and there's similar registrations required. So that's an example of where some technical change might be required. However, on the whole, there's a lot of products that aren't going to require major modification in order to be exported, and services as well. I'll go back to services because even though we speak English and you think, how can you do a service, whether that's financial or consulting or HR, a lot of the business is done in English. So actually, at least as a start, you can even do services without changes.
Now, we know when it comes to services, we probably won't be the low-cost market. Is it our expertise that we're exporting?
Exactly. That expertise both in product and services, because where the U.S. has moved is in selling products that have a higher value, a higher technology, we say intellectual property. It has IP built into it. So whether that's medical equipment, construction equipment, that's a strong area where we excel. And the other is quality. I mean, I come from Peoria, where Caterpillar's based, and they don't compete on price, they compete on quality and features and dependability, knowing that when you buy that, the full life cycle of the product, your payback is actually going to be better than the cheaper alternative.
Now, you're here today as part of the Wes Watkins Lectureship at Oklahoma State University. Right. What do you tell students in terms of the future of exports?
Well, the first thing I do is I help them see that they have to acknowledge that globalization is here and that from their career planning, they should embrace it. It's a scary thing, and I understand that. But to ignore it puts their own career at risk. So my first message is that they have to embrace the concept of, I want to be a part of this, I don't want to be against it, and one of the best ways is a chance to travel. If they can travel, that tends to light up a sort of a passion for, I want more of this, I like this. I both see similarities in the people I meet, and yeah, I see differences as well. So, and then beyond that, I tell them, just for altruistic reasons, meaning money, because that often gets students' attention. On average, a function that you can do internationally, whether that's teaching, accounting, human resource management, you're going to make more money in an international capacity than just purely domestic.
All right, Jim, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.